Hi, welcome to another edition of What You're Drinking. My name is Stewart Tippler and I'm European representative for Quirks Media. Today I am very fortunate to be speaking to the wonderful Mr. Ben Page. For those of you who don't know, Ben graduated from Oxford University in 1986 and exactly 1 year later he joined Ipsos MORI, where he is still there today, and he became the chief executive back in 2009. He has been named as one of the 100 most influential people in the public sector by The Guardian. GQ named him as one of the most connected men in Britain in 2015, and he has also won the Market Research Society medal back in 2005. So without further ado, welcome, Mr. Ben Page. What you drinking?
Cheers. I'm drinking Japanese whiskey, which I strongly like, and I strongly endorse this product.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Are you a keen follower of whiskey? Do you have a big collection?
I am. I lived in Scotland for a year in the early 1990s when I was sent up there to run a very large random probability survey when I was 26, and I got a taste for whiskey when I was living in Edinburgh. So I like really peaty whiskies from Islay, and I like Japanese whiskies, which are generally very smooth. But yeah, the main thing in lockdown is not to drink too much whiskey. But yeah,
I know. And just so for the people out there, have a guess. I am drinking a gin and tonic, shock horror. This one, branded glass, so the perfect serve. But today I am drinking Whitley Neal, rhubarb and ginger, one of my favourites. You can actually see the picture behind me. My wife's favourite is Silent Pool, and mine is the rhubarb and ginger. So, Ben, what's been happening? We're 3 months now into lockdown, the pandemic. Ipsos MORI been doing much in the last 3 months?
We're actually growing as a business, which is certainly unusual, I think, for the industry, but it's partly because of the diversity of what we do. So no, look, like most businesses, you've got a sudden massive drop-off in demand and lots of things. We do 45 million a year of face-to-face interviewing in Britain, which of course became impossible quite quickly. Yeah. And our work for airlines, our work for hotels, our work for car manufacturers like Jaguar Land Rover, that just stopped. So, so parts of the business very dramatic. We've had to furlough. We've had to furlough people. We've also been able to use the furlough scheme to actually furlough over 1,000 interviewers, who are obviously people who are normally paid on a daily basis for whatever work they do. Yeah. And so that's actually been a huge help. But on the upside, if there is any upside, is that we're working for the government with Imperial College on random testing of literally millions of people, both for the antigen and the antibodies. So antigen means you've got it right now, and the antibodies means you've had it, of COVID-19, which is vital to understand the prevalence of the disease as we come out of lockdown. And so that has made a big difference to our work. But yeah, it's been tough, like it has been for everybody. And I think also from most people on this call will have, if you're a business of any size, you'll have had masses of cancellations. So you've got all that work that you thought you were going to do, and then you're not doing it anymore. So we haven't made anybody redundant yet. Hopefully it will be pretty minor, but it is, it's a pretty dramatic time for business. And the difficulty is, of course, that we're only in the foothills of understanding the impact of this on the economy. Because if you look at 2008, it goes down and it doesn't get back, even in terms of the actual GDP, for several years. And I fear that this will be the same, that we will go down this year and it will take us, we won't just bounce back next year. You've got people like British Airways saying it will be 2023 by the time we return to 2019 volumes. And I fear that for the research industry, that may also be true. So it's going to be tough. But then if you've been in this business for a long time, which I must admit I have, if I've been there for 33 years, in a sense, we've been here before.
Yeah. And obviously that's very much UK centric in terms of some of that data and where you're thinking. what do you think the global impact this pandemic has had? Because obviously...
Well, it's going to shrink the industry, because you've got large parts of, I mean, even Google is suffering, who are our largest client. Even Google is suffering in this environment. So globally, you're having, a large part of the economy has just stopped, just like that, and has no money. On the other hand, FMCG is still, still going. Financial services, people still going. Media, I mean, it's changing, but people are consuming media in lockdown. But no, I mean, I think the overall economy is going to be depressed. The industry is going to go backwards rather than forwards. As always in these situations, it won't be the biggest necessarily that do best. It won't be the cleverest, even, as Darwin likes to put it. It will be the most adaptable who survive. But there will be many of the research people who buy research will have less money. Advertisers, there's much less advertising money around. It knocks through the food chain, and so it's going to be tough, I think, and it'll be tough for people. I think one challenge is it will be tough for people entering the industry, and I hope the industry doesn't do what it normally does, of not recruiting anybody during the downturn, and then of course there will be a massive shortage of talent in 3 or 4 years' time. But if you're trying, if you're under pressure, one of the things to cut is new hires, of course. We will try not to do that, but it's a big challenge.
Okay, and I mean, obviously, there's lots of various different things that are impacting the world. I mean, if you look at what's happened on the news over the last few weeks, obviously with what happened over in the States and the Black Lives Matter campaign that's been going on. Have Ipsos been doing some kind of research regarding that as well? And have you got some...
Obviously, yes. So as you know, we've been tracking people's attitudes to COVID since early February all over the planet. And that is the big message from that is, once humanity spotted the problem, they got it. And now, of course, they're very anxious about coming out of lockdown, which is having a big impact on the economy. In terms of Black Lives Matter, we track every month what people see as the biggest problems facing Britain or any number of countries. And we've just had this month the highest ever level of spontaneous anxiety about race relations in Britain. And for Black and Asian and minority ethnic people, that figure's even higher. So I think, I mean, and I think, again, I'm a white guy, so what do I know? But what's interesting, I think, is just the level of suppressed frustration and anger that this has somehow crystallized. And you might think that's sort of, you might say, well, what's that about? This isn't, the guy was murdered by the police in America, not here. But it just shows that sort of repressed frustration and anger. And so, no, you see it everywhere. It's inside my company as well. And it's very difficult to come up with a response that makes everybody happy, actually, on that. But no, it's, we will keep tracking that. I think the positive thing, if there is a positive thing out of all of this, is this, again, a bit like some of the debates about gender in the Me Too arguments of a few years ago, when we've started looking at the gender pay gap. What gets measured gets done. So we're now measuring the gender pay gap. That's something that government has forced on large companies, but it's a good thing. And I think perhaps one positive that comes out of Black Lives Matter is we'll just go back to, we've had a diversity and inclusion group. We've got groups covering race, covering ethnicity, covering LGBT, covering even European nationals in Ipsos MORI, where we've got all of these groups represented and they all have networks. But I think it's a reminder to go back and actually have some metrics. Let's see how many Black, Asian, minority ethnic people we've got applying. How many do we promote? How many do we appoint? What are we going to do to actually make a difference? And if everybody does that, we will make some progress. So it's a positive thing, but there's a lot of underlying, I think what perhaps surprises some people is the level of underlying anger and frustration that was sort of present, that has been crystallized by what they've seen on the news.
Yeah, no, completely agree. So it's normally about this time of the interview where we pick out a question out of the hat. So let me do that. And
whiskey.
Yeah, you have a drop of whiskey. You might need it with this question by the looks of it. So if you were a ghost and you could possess one person, who would it be and what would you make them do?
Is it somebody who's still alive or somebody who's dead, or can it, is there any? What are the conditions?
However you want to take it. Whether it.
Oh my giddy aunt. Oh, okay. I would go and possess Dominic Cummings in number 10 Downing Street, and I would get him to make Boris do a green reset for the economy in Britain, and maybe, I don't know, I suppose nobody really has planetary powers. No, I should go and possess Donald Trump and get him to do something sane, but hopefully, so I shouldn't say hopefully because I'm politically neutral, but maybe the electorate in America will fix that. Given that the election in Britain is some time away, I would go and possess Boris Johnson and make him invest in looking hard at the social contract, looking hard at stimulus for our economy that involves green energy, digital infrastructure, and build our, instead of austerity, which is how we responded to the crisis and the slump after 2008, to invest in things that we need to do in the economy, decarbonising the economy, in skills, training, digital infrastructure, to get Britain ready for how it needs to be. And I'd probably look at why the people we really depend on in Britain earn so little money. But that, hey, there's my ghost possessing Dominic Cummings rather than Boris Johnson, actually. Yeah.
You think he's got slightly more influence than the Prime Minister?
I have a feeling that he's the reason they're hanging on to him so strongly, and why he gets his own press conference in the Rose Garden in number 10. For foreign viewers who are not following the minutiae of British politics, Dominic Cummings may be a mystery figure, but he's basically the Svengali that is doing everything behind the scenes. And so it's interesting that, he's allowed, under lockdown, he's allowed to drive his family around wherever he likes and sort of go driving to test his eyesight. It's where if your eyesight's a bit dodgy because you've had COVID-19, the main thing you should do is go for a 60-mile drive just with your family in the back, just to check that your eyesight's okay. And after this, I'll have I'll go and test my eyesight a little bit more. But it is, in all seriousness, we need. I think what I would hope for the Western democracies is that rather than austerity, which is what happened after 2008, we've had many consequences of that. We seem to be in a situation where governments are able to run deficits. In other words, necessarily in the short term, spend more than their income in order to stimulate the economy. We've already got a situation in many countries where the government is literally paying people's wages. And I hope that we don't do that rather than massive cuts to spending, mass unemployment, which was what I remember from my youth of the 1980s.
Yeah.
Because we're probably, even with the best intentions in the world, we're going to have that. And instead, we need to stimulate the economy, but spend the money on constructive and positive things, not probably on tax cuts for wealthy people. I hope. So there you go.
Ben, thank you. I could talk to you for ages. Unfortunately, we have to keep this quite short. So just to finish off, a big thank you to Mr. Ben Page. Look forward to catching up with you soon, and hopefully look forward to you being part of the Quirks virtual event next month, 14th, 15th.
I always enjoy Quirks. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ben.
All right. Take care.